Hello, and welcome back to the Podcasting Problem Solver. I'm Leah Bryant, a podcast producer and growth coach who helps entrepreneurs turn their mic time into meaningful results. Let me ask you something really quick. Are you getting downloads but not seeing any real return on your investment? Maybe people are listening. Maybe you're even getting those, "Oh my gosh, I love your podcast" DMs. But those compliments aren't turning into clients on your calendar or revenue in your business. And that leaves you wondering, I know my content is good, so why isn't it converting? You're not alone. I hear this all the time. Podcasting is one of the best ways to grow your brand and build trust. But if you're not connecting your episodes to your offers in a strategic way, your podcast becomes a one-way street. It builds awareness, but not action. So today, we're diving into the attraction and momentum phases of my Seamless Podcast Framework because it's one thing to launch a show and another to turn that show into a client-generating machine. Here's what you're going to walk away with by the end of the episode. You'll have the real reasons your podcast isn't converting. And no, it's not your download numbers. What to tweak in your episode structure to warm up your leads, and how to make your show feel natural and intentional so it builds trust and brings in clients. Let's turn that podcast into your favorite salesperson, one that never needs a coffee break or scripts. And to do that, we're going to talk about the mindset shift, that your podcast is a sales tool. And here's a reframe that will change the way you approach your show. Your podcast isn't just a place to share your expertise. It's not just about showing up or adding value. It's a strategic part of your sales system. Think of your business as an ecosystem. You've got marketing channels, lead magnets, sales calls, client delivery, and your podcast can be the bridge between the moment someone discovers you and the moment they decide, yes, I'm totally working with her or him. And here's the kicker. That bridge doesn't get built by accident. That's why the strategy phase of my Seamless framework is so important. It's where you decide before you hit record exactly how your show supports your goals. That clarity, that's what keeps your episodes from becoming random acts of content. Even once your show is live, that strategy shouldn't just sit on a shelf. It should evolve with your offers, your audience, and your goals. When you move into the attraction phase, you're not just making content, you're creating intentional pathways. Every episode should be a breadcrumb, leading your listener closer to the transformation your offer provides. Here's where many podcasters get stuck. They treat their show like a value vault, pouring in tips and encouragement, but never inviting people to take the next step. It's like running a beautiful boutique. People browse, they love what they see, but no one tells them where the checkout is. Not making that connection isn't avoiding sales, it's avoiding helping people. Because here's the thing. Someone who loves your show is already halfway to saying yes. You're in their routine, your voice is in their ears, on the school run or while they're folding laundry, and that kind of access, you can't buy that with ads. But trust alone doesn't close the sale. Trust needs direction. And that's where the momentum phase comes in, keeping your audience engaged and moving towards your offers in a way that feels natural and supportive. And no, you don't have to end every episode with, "Buy my thing," because that's exhausting. But you do need to guide people from a passive listener to engaged prospect. Otherwise, you built a bridge that stops halfway across the river. They can see where they want to go, but they can't get there without you. So let's cover why your podcast isn't converting yet. Think of your podcast like a bridge. Its job is to take someone from curious listener to paying client. But here's what happens all too often. The bridge looks gorgeous, but it doesn't actually get them across. They take a few steps, they're interested, they're engaged, and then nothing. No next step, no connection to your offers, no movement toward a sale. So why is that? Well, usually it comes down to one or more of these three problems. Reason number one, you're giving great info, but no invitation. This is what I call the content island problem. You're delivering high value, standalone episodes, and your listeners love them, but the episodes exist in isolation. So your audience walks away thinking, that was really great, but not, I want more of this. How do I get it from her or him? The real issue? Well, you're not linking your free content to your paid work. Now, what would this sound like in real life? It could be episodes end with a quick thank you instead of a call to action. Or you give a full tutorial, but never mention that you offer this as a done for you or done with you service. So I want you to ask yourself, if someone loved this episode, do they know exactly what to do next with me? If the answer is no, this is how you fix it. Always connect the episode's lesson to your work, even if it's just a subtle mention. You could use transitions like, if this is resonating, this is exactly what we focus on inside my offer, and name your offer. Or, this is the first step in the process I use with my clients when and then you give them the result. When you make this connection, you're essentially saying, hey, the bridge doesn't stop here. Keep walking, there's more. Reason number two, your call to action is passive, buried, or vague. Here is the truth. If your call to action is an afterthought, it's really invisible. Listeners are busy, right? By the time your outro music starts, they're already moving on. So what's the real issue? Well, you're hiding the exit ramp to your offer at the very end, and you're not telling them why they should take it now. So what would this sound like in real life? Well, your call to actions that sound unsure. If you want, you can, or feel free to. Only mentioning your offer once and only at the very end. And then never telling them the benefit of taking that action. So ask yourself, if someone wanted to take the next step with me, did I make it easy for them? Well, if the answer is no, here's how you can fix it. I want you to treat your call to action like as part of your content and not a sales interruption. I want you to place it early, ideally mid-episode, and repeat it before you close. And then add urgency without the pressure. So an example could be, if you're listening right now and thinking, my podcast isn't bringing in clients the way it should, that's exactly what we fixed inside my podcast Refresh Intensive. We look at your content, your call to action, your episode flow, and make sure your show is set up to attract the right listeners and guide them toward working with you. The link's in the show notes. See? That's like putting a bright, clear sign at the end of the bridge that says, this is your way to transformation. All right, number 3. Your content doesn't align with your offer. So this one, it's a silent killer of conversions because on the surface, it looks like you're doing everything right. You're publishing consistently, your audience is engaged, but your topics aren't actually moving people toward your offer. So the real issue, you're building a bridge to the wrong destination. And what this sounds like in real life, it could be that you're teaching advanced strategies when your offer solves beginner level problems. You're staying in that broad awareness mode when your offer needs a problem-aware audience. Or you're jumping between unrelated topics so your audience can't see the through line. So I want you to ask yourself, if someone binge listened to the last 5 episodes, would they feel more ready to buy my offer? And how do you fix this? I've got you, don't worry. First, you want to reverse engineer your content. Start with your offer, identifying the top 5 to 7 questions or objections or even problems your ideal client has before buying. And then you want to build episodes that walk them through those points in order. So a pro tip for you, problem to solution episodes convert best because they meet people exactly where they're stuck. And they show them that you have the way forward. The bottom line is, if you're not connecting your content to your offer, if your call to actions are hidden or weak, and if your topics don't lead directly to what you sell, then you built a podcast people love, but that doesn't pay you back. And that's not a downloads problem. That is a bridge problem. So how do you turn your podcast into a sales tool? Let's cover it right now with this strategy. Now that we know why your podcast might not be converting, let's talk about how to fix it, okay? How to finish building that bridge so that it reliably takes listeners from free value to paid transformation. Think of this like a construction plan. We're not just throwing down planks, we're creating a well-lit, well-marked, easy-to-cross bridge that people actually want to walk across. That's important. All right, so step number 1, we want to start with our destination. So that would be the strategy and attraction, right? If you don't know where the bridge is supposed to end, you can't build it. So this means that you have to be crystal clear on your core offer, who it's for, and the transformation it delivers. Without that clarity, your episodes can drift into nice to know topics instead of need to know to work with me topics. So how about a quick check-in? Before you outline your next episode, I want you to ask yourself this. If someone loved this topic, would they be ready and excited to take the next step to my offer? If the answer is no, then just adjust the angle. So as an example, if you offer a VIP day to fix messy launches, instead of how to book podcast guests, how about we try why unplanned guest interviews delay your launch and how to avoid it? See the difference? You're not just teaching a skill, you're setting up a problem that your paid service solves. Step number 2, we want to add the signpost, okay? That's execution and momentum. Signposts are those subtle, organic ways you remind your audience that you help people with the exact thing without making it feel like a hard pitch. Because here's the truth. People don't automatically connect free podcast advice to paid service provider. Signposts, they close that gap. So here's how you can add them in naturally. You could do mini client stories. One of my clients thought her intro was perfect. But once we tightened it up a bit, her consumption rate jumped and she booked 2 consults the next week. We want to reference your frameworks. So inside the attraction phase of my Seamless Podcast Framework, we always start by mapping the listener journey first. And then give a peek behind the curtain. This week, I was mapping out a client's pre-launch promo calendar, and we found a quick win that doubled her waitlist signups. See, these aren't just credibility boosters, they're seeds. And the more seeds you plant, the easier it is for someone to picture themselves as your client. Number 3, light the way with clear call to actions. And this is the momentum piece. Even the best bridge needs a clear endpoint. Your call to action is that "you are here" marker that shows them exactly where to go next. The problem with vague call to actions is they cause friction. The more specific and confident you are, the more likely someone is to take action. So how do you improve them? You state the offer and benefit. Want a lead converting podcast? That's exactly what we do inside my podcast Refresh Intensive, links in the show notes. And place your call to actions where attention is highest, early and mid episode, not just at the end. I want to keep them single-minded, one clear offer per episode. So if you want an advanced move, you can use contextual CTAs tied directly to your topic. So let's say I'm going to have an episode that's going to be about planning episodes in advance. So an example would be, if you want me to map out your next 90 days of content so it leads straight to your offer, that's exactly what we do in my 90-day growth sprint. Link is in the show notes. The clearer the call to action, the smoother the path across the bridge. Step number 4, keep the bridge open 24/7. And this still falls underneath the momentum piece. Your podcast should work for you, even when you're not recording. This is where repurposing comes in. You want to turn each episode into multiple opportunities for someone to find you and walk across that bridge. So how do you do that? Well, you can embed episodes on your service page to warm up visitors. You can send specific episodes in response to questions in your DMs. You can reshare older episodes during launches. Your new followers, well, maybe they haven't heard them yet. Add episodes to sales emails and onboarding sequences so people are already primed before your first call. And here's an advanced move for you. Build a content library guide, a simple page on your site that groups episode by problem or goal. You can link it to your email signature, proposals, and onboarding so that people can self-educate. When you do this, your bridge isn't just complete, it's going to be busy with traffic. So the bottom line is a podcast that sells is not an accident. It's intentional. From topic selection to storytelling to the way you reuse what you've already created. When your episodes are aligned, when your signposts are clear, when your call to actions are confident, and when your content is always working for you, well, you don't just have a bridge, you have a system that works even when you're not. All right, so how about some story time? So I have a client, and we'll call her Amanda. She had strong content, great downloads, but no leads. Her call to action, can you guess what it was? That's right. Leave a review. And her topics didn't really connect to her offer. So what did we do? Well, I looked over all of her stuff and we aligned her topics, which is the attraction piece, moved her call to action earlier, which is the momentum piece, and we wove in her services naturally. And you know what happened? Within 6 weeks, she signed her first client directly from her podcast. And that, my friends, is the power of finishing the bridge. All right, so let's recap this bridge blueprint, shall we? We're going to bring it all together. If you want your podcast to actually bring in clients and revenue, not just downloads, you've got to build a bridge between your free content and your paid offers. And here's your bridge blueprint, the 5 pieces you need to make this happen. Number 1, start with your destination, which is your strategy and attraction. Be crystal clear on what you're selling, who it's for, and the transformation it delivers. Because if your audience doesn't know where the bridge leads, they're not going to walk across it, right? Number 2, we're going to lay the planks, which is the attraction phase. Every episode is a plank that moves your listener one step closer to being ready to buy. And when you align your topics so they're in sequence, not random, and each one naturally leads to the next. Number 3, add the signpost. This is the execution and momentum. Casual, confident mentions of your work, your framework, and your client results keep listeners oriented. These signposts remind them you are the guide who can get them to the other side. Number 4, light the way, and this is also momentum. Your call to action is the "you are here" marker at the end of the bridge. We want to make it clear, make it confident, and place it where people are still paying attention, ideally mid-episode and before you close. Number 5, we want to keep that bridge open 24/7, and this is also in the momentum phase. Repurpose your episodes so that they're always working, even when you're not. Think about embedding them on your services page, sending them in DMs, adding them to your onboarding emails, and resharing them during launches. Here's the bottom line, friends. A podcast that only gives you value without direction, that's a bridge to nowhere. A podcast that aligns content, connection, and has clear call to actions, well, that's a bridge that brings people straight to your offer over and over again. All right, so quick next steps for you. Look at your last 5 episodes and ask, do these topics lead directly to my offer? Did I add a signpost to remind people I can help them? Is my call to action specific, confident, and placed in the right spot? And if the answer is no to any of those, you've got your marching orders this week. You could also feel free to send me a DM, an email, smoke signal, whatever, and I'll be happy to help you with that too. So here's your reminder. You're not bad at sales. You just need a podcast that's designed to guide people across the bridge from interest to investment. If this episode helped, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. And if you want more strategies like this, ones you can actually implement, join my newsletter. The link is in the show notes. And I send 1 tip a week that's pretty in-depth, and it'll help you grow your show and your business. And if you're sitting there thinking, I know my bridge is incomplete, I just don't know where it's breaking, let's fix that. Book a free podcast growth discovery call with me. We'll figure out exactly where your listeners are stalling, what's causing the drop off, and map the next steps to get them moving to your offers. Whether that's through a podcast refresh intensive or a 90-day growth sprint, I'll point you to the right direction. Your voice is powerful. Your podcast can be profitable. Remember that. And also stay strategic, stay intentional, but above all else, keep it seamless. And I'll see you next week.